Welcome back, everybody. This is PPB. Prohfit with us again. Political premium view. Whoa. Showing
PPV.
Showing some West Side culture. Telling us stories now. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming in. We will be with you. We were going to be discussing the legalization of marijuana and whether it should or should not be. And before we get on that, just listen to some music, and we will be right back.
Read this book. Read this book. Also, read Langston Hughes.
I was talking this whole time and you didn't hear me. Is the second one you showed really poetry, or is that actually like a story?
No, yeah, it's the selected poems of Langston Hughes.
Okay. I always wanted to go to one of them like poetry cafes, you know, where they snap their fingers.
Oh yeah, no, I've done poetry readings and stuff at places like that. Really cool.
Yeah, I always thought that was pretty cool experience. I like how it sounds, like when you get a bunch of people snapping like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like how it
sounds. What are you doing?
I'm sharing the page or the stream. That's why I got the music just blasting. How does it sound over there?
Sounds pretty dope, actually.
And if you got some subs hooked up, these beats hit.
Oh yeah, no, I bet.
Now before we take pre-flight, it down a little bit. Communist Manifesto is creeping in on us. It is upon America's door.
Yeah. Knock, knock.
Don't answer it. Don't answer it. Thanks everybody for stopping by. You know me, I'm Dozangs. And we got joining us today in the arena once again, Prohfit. And this is PPV Premium Political View. Make sure you watch the whole thing, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Engage with us.
And drink water.
And drink lots of water. It's getting warmer out there. We don't want you guys dying of a heat stroke.
Yeah.
We
Drink water.
We care about our audience here.
Yeah. If you have a lot of back pain, sometimes
I do.
Water helps a lot. Like you might just be dehydrated.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's crazy. A lot of my pains and stuff, when I drink like a gallon of water a day or just under, a lot of my pains are a lot less.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't. Maybe I'll try that out. Drink more water and see how that goes. Yeah, but to be honest with you, I got chronic back pain.
So do I.
I've been hit many times in car accidents, and I got permanent damage in my neck and my back. So regardless of what I do, it hurts.
It'll always hurt. But
I'm constantly cracking my neck. I don't know if you heard that, but man, that felt really good. All the time. Now you know what is great, because now I'll have my kids walk on it. And the only problem is
I used to have my little sister walk on my back, and I feel like that might have not helped.
Oh yeah, well they gotta pop it. If it like feels like it's gonna pop but it doesn't, that's almost like more painful than just letting it.
Yeah, but she might have done like permanent damage or something.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I already have that, so
It can always be worse, man.
Yeah, I guess it could. I try not to worry. It's it's a poor man's chiropractor.
Yeah. Do yoga.
Drink water. Do yoga.
And enjoy your life. Those are the three. Those are Prohfit's three recommendations: drink water, do yoga, and enjoy your life.
All right, I like that. That don't sound like bad recommendations. All right, Prohfit. So speaking of back pain,
yes, sir.
Marijuana help with back pain?
Yeah.
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 Through your personal experience, or
I used to. I don't smoke anymore because I was smoking too much, and I found other means of like dealing with that pain. But I use CBD, which is from marijuana, and that helps.
What is it?
CBD.
Yeah, and excuse me, ice cubes. Yeah, and we'll talk about CBD later on. I'm gonna bring that up. So through my experience, I partake in it from here and there. It's not something I do every day. It gets to be too expensive, and I don't like to do it every day. Me personally, when I do it every day, I get like numbhead. I turn into like this Frankenstein where, I mumble a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm just not very coherent when I'm on it every single day. So for me, though, with the back pain now, I'm just
sharing some links, by the way, just so that you can like look at them later. You don't have to address them now.
Say that again.
I'm just sharing some links so you can look at them throughout the conversation. Sure, you don't have to address them now or anything.
Okay. Yeah. So through my personal experience, marijuana has not relieved my back pain at all.
Right.
But again, research says that it can help reduce back pain, or it can help reduce pain in general. But it's but through our
nerve
experience,
pain is a little bit different than muscle pain. So,
sure.
like, if you have muscle aches and stuff, marijuana can help a lot more. If you have nerve damage, I mean, some people, and I mean, everyone's different. Like,
Yeah.
everyone's going to react to every chemical a little bit differently. So, it's kind of hard to nail down what works for you and what doesn't. But for a lot of people, I mean, marijuana works almost as well as opiates. So,
Yeah.
you can actually see, like, when people have access to marijuana or when it's been legalized, opioid use goes down. So,
I mean, I have heard that it makes like, they make that switch. I guess you could say to, the marijuana. But so the thing about it is that I think the switch isn't validated in a way, and I'll tell you why. Because the strains of marijuana that they make today is not like the strains that they were, having back in the 60s and the 70s. The strains that they're making now is very powerful. Even the weed itself, like the plant itself. I'm not even talking about like the chemically
concentrate and stuff.
Right,
yeah.
right. I'm just talking about the plant, the weed itself. It's come to a point actually now, and I'll come back into this later. But it's coming to a point now where they are actually producing plants with higher THC, which is what gets you high,
right,
and lower CBD, which is what helps mediate pain. So
it depends.
Makes sense.
It
depends.
No,
that's exactly what they're doing, though, and that
in some cases, but they also have plants that only produce CBD, and they focus on those plants. And also, sometimes THC actually does have medical benefits as well. It's more when it comes to psychological issues than pain. But even then, like, when you're blitzed out of your mind, you probably won't feel as much pain as you would if you were 100% conscious.
Right.
Or non-inebriated. But I tend to not try to get into the personal, like, medical benefits and hindrances arguments when it comes to legalization, because
what do you mean?
Well, when it comes to those arguments, it's very, very specific to the individual, and there's a lot of fluctuation, and you have to really start to understand, like, science and research studies in order to figure out, exactly what it does do and what it doesn't do.
Well, I'm telling you that CBD is the chemical part,
right,
that elevates pain, and THC is the chemical part
that gets you high.
And I'm telling you, farmers and medical people, because of the profitability of it, people ain't gonna buy weak weed if one grower has good strong weed. So it's
right. But so here's the thing:
on a grand scale, they are making it higher THC, which gets you high, and lower CBD, which elevates pain. So by that alone, we can tell that the users aren't using it to numb pain, but are getting high. Yeah, I mean, why else would they? I mean, do you agree? Hold on. Just think this out with me before jumping to something else.
Right.
So do you agree that farmers on a grand scale, this isn't just 1 or 2 or 3, 4, this is every farmer. They are making THC plants stronger. Can you agree on that?
Well,
we can look at, you could cross-reference. I'm going to call it a fact.
Okay, I agree with it.
Why would they be doing that if it wasn't about
with some caveats?
Okay, what are the caveats? Yes.
So essentially, what they're trying to do, so in weed, actually, as far as I understand it, there are about 70 different chemicals, right? It's not just CBD and THC. There's a lot of chemicals involved when it comes to what's in the thing that you smoke at the end of the day. So what you have is you have people who, yeah, they focus on growing more potent weed. Now it depends on what they're growing it for, depends on which chemicals are being promoted and which chemicals are being bred out. So you have entire strains of weed and multiple strains of weed that are almost entirely CBD. And there's a huge market for extremely powerful CBD weed, for people that have seizures, for people that have chronic pain, for people that get extreme amounts of anxiety. You have very concentrated amounts of CBD for that. And then you also have very concentrated amounts of THC in weed. And then there's different types that produce different types of highs for different kinds of, experiences or things that you wish to address. And even that high THC content has medical benefits. So when it comes to depression, certain types of weed actually have benefits when it comes to depression. Certain types of weed have benefits when it comes to like PTSD and other mental health issues. So, it goes kind of, yes, everything that you're going to see now is going to be more concentrated of a specific chemical and of a specific chemical combination to produce whatever you want to produce. Not in every case are they cutting down on CBD. There is a lot of weed where they'll increase both. They'll increase the THC and the CBD content in order to give you both of those impacts. And again, there's a lot of other chemicals that are less well known that I don't know all about, that they focus on sussing those out in some strains as well, for different purposes and different experiences. Ultimately, when I argue for the legalization of weed, I don't want to go down that road because I feel like there's other arguments that we can have that I don't need to argue for the medical benefits purposes in order to justify legalizing it. And I mean, there's there could be medical benefits to anything. So like alcohol has medical benefits. It numbs pain. But if you do it too much,
right?
Too much of anything is a bad thing. Too much weed is a bad thing. Too much booze is a bad thing.
Right.
I mean, they used to use morphine as a painkiller, they use morphine as a painkiller. They used to use arsenic as a painkiller.
Yep.
They used to use, there's so many things that have benefits that could also kill you. So like it becomes a really scientific argument and a really, in the weeds. And I feel like, essentially without the medical purposes, you have three main groups of arguments. You have the philosophical or moral argument. Does the government have the right to control what I put in my body? Group of arguments. There's a whole bunch of arguments within that, and we can delve into that if we want to go down that road. Then there's the utilitarian groups of arguments, which is how does either prohibition of marijuana or legalization of marijuana impact society, and what are the impacts of either keeping it prohibited or legalizing it? And then thirdly is the economic argument. What are the economic benefits to your community or to your nation, to like an industry, will it produce more jobs, so on and so forth. So in all three of those groups, I think I have the right. I think I'm on the right side of that discussion. But and then when it comes to medical, I think I'm also on the right side. But I don't go into that because I'm not a scientist, and I don't. That's just not my forte. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get it. What about mental health? I mean, because medical for me is a big issue.
Right.
For me, I mean, I have to argue that point because that is a big issue for me on why I think it shouldn't be legalized. That's just one of it's a big point for me.
So the issue is that it becomes really like anecdotal. For me and my personal experience.
Well, okay. How about you don't have to argue? How about I just lay out what I found?
Okay.
And then if you want to say something,
I'll jump in. I'll jump in when I find something that I have a contention with.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So the as far as
I'll raise my hand.
No, you ain't got to do that. As far as the medical goes, though, one of the things is that all around we just don't have enough research regarding marijuana, and we are finding that out more and more every day. And I'll bring up some examples as well. So the most common way of smoking marijuana is through smoke. Regardless of what anyone says, this increases the chance of lung cancer. It does. On one end, you're saying it kills cancer or cures cancer or helps alleviate cancer. But on another end, it does cause cancer too. Is there a lot of research to back that up? No. But like I said, we haven't had enough time to research legally the properties of marijuana. We haven't had controlled studies because there's been no investment in those studies
because it's illegal,
right?
Therefore you just made an argument to legalize it.
Well, no, because I mean, what are you going to do? Risk what the potential hazard on what could be to run tests? I mean, so we're guinea pigs.
No, because people are going to do it regardless of whether it's legal or not, right? So essentially,
let's stay on medical.
Keeping it illegal.
Yeah, let's stay on medical. Where I'm at.
Right. But what I'm saying is, people are going to do it regardless. So by keeping it illegal, you're preventing, federal funding going into medical research, which could find either that it has negative effects and or positive effects, and which ones outnumber which in which scenarios.
Right, and what we're finding out is both. Actually, what we're finding out is THC is more bad than good, and CBD is more good.
I haven't seen anything. Seen anything.
Well, let me lay out my point here.
Yeah.
And I'll show you.
Okay.
And that's why I kind of asked about mental health. So I believe because the number one way of getting marijuana or THC into your body is smoking it, that it does cause lung cancer. It does cause, poor circulation, yada, 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 yada. And the longer you smoke it, the worse it is for you. So to stick with medical, to go with the mental health, psychosis among users is on the rise. There's studies to prove this. And if you are already, susceptible to be in psychosis, it is worse for you actually to smoke weed.
Yeah.
Smoking weed, studies have shown, can and will cause depression. If you started smoking in your teens and you are 30 now, you are at a very high risk. Let me look this up because I don't want to get this name wrong. And they're finding out more and more because it's legalized. There's a lot more, regardless of what the numbers say, there's a lot more open smokers that are, I just want to make sure I get this name right here. There was let me look up the article here real quick. I thought I had it on my wall. Maybe it's on this one. Yeah, let me look up the article real quick.
So to address kind of the cancer argument, right? Yeah, smoking anything can lead to lung cancer. So there are other ways of ingesting it that may or may not be promoted. Also, though, there's the issue of the concentrated, like in edibles and in THC wax or concentrate. That's where you get most of your psychosis issues from, as far as I understand.
Okay, real quick here. This mysterious cannabis-related syndrome is called, and in fact, a woman fell asleep in the shower because of this, and
drowned
and burned her skin. No, she didn't drown, but just trying to find the name of what they called this because I remember reading this. I'm trying to find a medical term for you.
It's called passing out.
No. CHS, cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. So CHS affects frequent marijuana users who suddenly develop adverse reactions to the substance, usually in their 30s, after using the substance daily or weekly, beginning in their teens. The condition was actually coined in early 2000s.
So,
and a lot of people say that marijuana alleviates like nausea and vomiting. They're saying that, if you've been smoking regularly, daily or weekly, since you're in your teens and now you're 30, it actually has the reverse effect.
Right. So here's the thing. And there are people, when you do one thing, a lot of the time you actually do also develop allergies. Right.
Sure. I mean,
So that's another thing too. Like people will develop an allergic reaction to marijuana, whether it's psychological or or body, a body reaction. That's another issue. However, we have to be very clear.
What I just said, though, how does that address what?
Well, no. I'm adding two. I'm not.
Okay.
So, but we have to be very clear that we encourage people to not use any mind altering or at the lowest amount of mind altering substances while they're in their teenage years. Your brain does not fully develop until you're 25. Anything you do adding to your brain, whether it is, prescription drugs or marijuana or alcohol or anything that you're doing that's adding to your changing your mental, your chemical makeup in your mind as it's developing, is going to have negative long-term reactions. So first and foremost, we need to establish that kids are not encouraged to use any drugs.
Well, I agree with that, but legalizing it, I think, is just going to give kids more access to it. They don't have to be. I look, Prohfit, I understand. I got kids. I got teenage boys. Okay, I get it. I understand. If they're going to do it, they're going to find a way to do it.
Well, but they have access.
I don't think, like, if you don't want your kid to drink pop, for example, just for an example, if you don't have pop in the house and it's not constantly being like this because pop is legal and it's all in the stores, it takes to the mental different.
Well, I mean, you know, the thing, so
it does. Prohfit, that's marketing. You have to at least admit that it takes to the mental different. If this was illegal and this wasn't everywhere, probably not as many kids would be drinking pop.
I feel like if you made, like, for example, like if you made sugar illegal, which, you know, or
sure. It's addictive. I mean, just as much as pop is. I mean, it's addictive.
Just as much as any chemical that you ingest is. So, yeah, if you made sugar illegal, I don't feel like the use of sugar would go down all that much. I feel like
amongst kids, I think it would. Amongst kids, I think it would.
Maybe. I mean,
because now you're risking, you know.
So, do you think prohibition? Do you think prohibition of booze worked?
Not to the extent that they wanted it to. Obviously, did it have some?
Do you think prohibition of booze like limited, you know, access to booze? Because I mean that pretty non-controversially it didn't.
So I'm going to say that it did restrict the access in some parts of America. And I'll say to prove that it restricted some parts of the America. I'm sorry, I did America. That they wouldn't have put
America.
Up. Yeah, I know where I'm at. Sometimes.
Yeah. Unless you smoke too much weed.
Yeah, maybe. So the it did take, you know, what they wanted it to do in certain parts of America, and to prove that it was restricting access. If it wasn't, and it wasn't getting into their pocketbooks, and it wasn't disrupting the flow, there wouldn't have been such a fight tooth and nail. There wouldn't have been. But it was disrupting their pocketbooks. It was disrupting flow. It was limiting access to some parts of America.
Whose pocketbooks?
What's that?
The main one of the primary reasons that you had a you know, pushback against keeping, you know, alcohol illegal was it created an entire illegal market, which spawned a criminal enterprise that made way more than a lot of legal companies were making because they were able to charge whatever they wanted.
And no taxes.
Yeah, no taxes. So they were I mean, you had huge booms of moonshiners. You had huge booms of gangsters. You know, you built an entire industry of gangs off of prohibition. And, you know, that was funded entirely by keeping it illegal. So when they legalized it, a lot of the money and a lot of those illegal, nefarious groups essentially disappeared.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, you know, yeah, I mean, I guess in some parts, I mean, you know, you could pick and choose like which parts had more access and which parts had less access. But I would argue, especially like in the big cities and the hubs, there was more liquor being distributed to people, and more people were drinking when it was illegal, because, they would, they felt like they were doing a naughty thing. So they'd, go in the speakeasies, hide under the thing, and get absolutely hammered. Because, they didn't want to get caught. So they would just like throw it all down and then they'd leave. And I mean, these places boomed. I mean, there was huge amounts of business going on.
Sure, and now, everybody in America has a drinking problem.
Right, but not everybody in America.
Pretty much.
No,
Pretty much.
No, I don't have a problem.
I'm not saying you. I'm just.
Yeah. Well, I'm everyone. I'm a part of everyone.
Yeah, I just, I
don't have a problem.
Look, alcohol is, in my opinion, just like marijuana, is a huge problem as far as addiction and what it does to family units, what it does to your body medically. I mean, my family has died from a long list of alcohol cancer, cirrhosis, ganjas, yellow eyes, and just the kidney gifts, a long line of it. So, I'm perfectly aware. But so again, though, you can't let that happen. So what are you going to do? You're going to legalize marijuana and then find out the medical consequences down the road and say, well,
I mean, so my argument is we already have evidence. We already have overwhelming evidence that there's a lot of benefits to using marijuana. There are some negatives, especially when it comes to the concentrate. The
concentrate is horrible for you.
Yeah, it can be really fucking bad.
Well, at least we agree on that.
Well, yeah, and I mean, abusing anything is bad. Don't abuse stuff.
Right.
Period. I would argue that keeping things illegal encourages abuse rather than responsible use. Because you don't have a regulated way of obtaining your weed. So when you buy your weed, it could have, some other shit mixed into it. And you don't know until you're smoking it, and then all of a sudden it starts sparking, or
right.
Like you have no idea, like if somebody laced your shit or anything like that.
And I've been a victim of that lacing.
Right.
In my yeah. So
But if you were buying a pack of THC cigarettes that was sealed, what's in there.
Right. Well,
there's a label. They have to put a label that says what chemicals are on there, and all of that. When it comes to the cancer argument, I would argue that weed is a lot less, or causes a lot less cancer than cigarettes does because of the chemicals. But the tar is bad.
Look, maybe now. But wait until you.
Wait until they can put all the chemicals from tobacco into weed. Yeah,
big pharma. You understand that when you legalize marijuana, it's big pharma, it's big tech.
Well, so that's a huge thing that needs to be pushed for and argued. Is that when we legalize marijuana, it needs to come along with certain laws that favor but small farmers.
I agree with you. There has to come with but that's not going to happen, Prohfit.
I mean, that's what we have to fight for.
Thank you.
At the end of the day, that's what we have to fight for. And we have to fight for that on so many issues. We have to, fight for small farmers. We have to fight against large companies. That's where a lot of the it's hard work, but at the end of the
day, work. Look at this birdie. Do you know what that movie is referencing to?
No.
White Men Can't Jump. Have you ever seen White Men Can't Jump with Woody Harrelson and?
Way back.
Yeah. It's too goddamn hot. to look this pretty. They're all like shooting the threes. Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there to lighten it up a little bit. Anywho.
Yeah, so essentially what it comes down to is this.
Break it down to me.
Having, from a medical perspective, having it illegal means that we can't get federal funds to find out what the benefits and the negatives are to the drug.
Right.
Then people are going to be using it regardless. It was in my high school before it got legalized in California. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
There were kids. There were kids handing out brownies, bro, in every classroom. Like, it wasn't. Not available. So
yeah.
And pretty easy to get. So, it would be harder, in my opinion, and this is going into it a little bit, it'd be harder for me to have been, going to a liquor store to try to buy a brownie, because then they'd actually check my ID, as opposed to, the kids in my class who are already underage selling it to me.
Let me ask you, do you think, because we have to understand that there's a cultural,
there was more weed in my high school than there was alcohol.
Let me finish this.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, right. No, and that's why I'm bringing up what I'm bringing up. America is big and it's vast. I think we just think that we're one country, and therefore from the west to the east, it's sometimes the same. There's a huge swath of middle that are not cities and populated.
Right.
So we look at things and we treat things and analyze things a little differently. Like where we're from, if you, not 100%, I'm not saying like it's a guarantee, but if you wanted to keep your kids away from certain things, you have a decent chance at it. Or around middle, the flyover states, space, is what they call it.
Right.
So, I look at it differently culturally, and just, with and I think you do too. So I wanted to ask you, with that in mind, do you want the legalization of marijuana on a federal level, or would you rather have it left up to the states?
Well, I mean, at the rate the states are going, it's going to be legal in all the states anyway.
Eventually, I know. I realize I'm debating a fighting, losing.
Yeah,
I get it. I gotta hang on to it though.
So the reason I would say I want it legalized on a federal level, because having it illegal on the federal level limits access to banking for legitimate businesses, limits, loans, limits, funding for studies, limits a lot of the legitimate aspects, which then, like in California, we legalized weed, but because a lot of the legal, like the farmers aren't able to get farming subsidies to grow weed from the federal government like other farmers are able to.
Right.
What happens is the weed grows end up being like illegal cartel grows, because there is no, ability to compete, because one of the big benefits of having legal marijuana is or for legal businesses, is access to the federal subsidies and the federal, banking and loans, which banks aren't allowed to give out. Like legitimate banks and national banks aren't allowed to give out loans for marijuana because it's illegal on the federal level. So if there was a way of legalizing it in that sense and allowing, the legitimate things to happen for states that are legalizing it, so that our legal businesses can actually compete with the illegal stuff, if there was a way of doing that, but still letting some states, keep it illegal if they want to, I mean, I feel like that would be a middle ground that I'm willing to go to, because that's not, I don't really care. If you don't want it legal in your state, like, I think it's dumb, but that's your choice. I don't really care about forcing Oklahoma to legalize weed. I just, in my state where it is legal, I want access to the same, like, business incentives and the same, like, legal protections that other businesses have.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, you want to legalize. You don't care what states legalize it, but you do want to legalize it in a way to where it gets the same treatment and benefits and taxes and everything else as a regular business would on a federal level instead of a state level.
Right.
Yeah, I get that. I think, like most of our, disagreements, a lot of times I don't think, because there's things we agree on, and I say this every show. I don't think it's so much politics as much as like for, where we are from in America, because it is, like I said, it's so big. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, if I was to familiarize myself with your area, I would probably develop philosophies that would probably counter your philosophies.
You would just have to Prohfit. I mean, there wouldn't be this duo if you didn't do that.
Right. But I mean, I would probably have, because, I'm a socialist, so I'd probably have very unique ways of fixing rural areas or problems in rural areas that you would probably come at from a different angle. But we would be focused on those issues rather than addressing
around here. Like, we don't think we got issues. We think all the issues are in the bigger cities. We think we're fine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How's meth out there?
Yeah, that's for that's being, like, brought in from the bigger cities.
Okay.
If there's something wrong,
it's not getting cooked in the hills or nothing, right?
No, well, I mean, now it is, but essentially it was brought in from the.
It was always in California. It was always the north, like the hills and the mountains and
Montana,
the small towns.
Montana, I definitely know is bad.
They cook.
Yeah.
They
got chefs up there.
They don't import shit.
Yeah.
That's pure American.
Regardless to say, we think we're fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so do we.
Yeah.
on the whole, we probably think that we're better off than y'all.
Yeah, no, I know y'all think we're backwards.
But at the same time, but every community has problems. Every community has issues that they should be working to address in some way, some form.
Which is why I would go with, like, the state, the state legalization. I think because, like, the people, but I don't, again, different areas in different states, priorities are different from the next state.
Right. And I mean, I'm okay with that. Like, on some issues, like, the civil rights stuff, all states, you don't get a choice whether or not you discriminate against Black people. But
right. Yeah. That I can. Yeah. Absolutely.
But, generally I'm okay. Like, if you don't want to legalize weed in Oklahoma, I'm okay with that. Or,
right. Yeah.
Pick your state, but
real estate.
But if I choose to have it legalized here, or my people choose to legalize it here, I don't want the federal government getting in the way of my small business.
I did want to mention dental health too. Horrible. And the dental association.
Smoking?
Yeah, and the dental association can confirm that. It's horrible on your teeth.
Well, yeah, smoking anything is bad on your teeth.
Well, especially marijuana, though.
Oh, is it?
Because what it does is it gives you cotton mouth. A dry mouth is horrible for your gums, and it's horrible for your teeth. And then secondly, most people, when they get high, what are the first two things they go for?
Oh, sweets. And
Sweet and
fat.
sour. Yep, sweet and sour. So that so now you're hitting your gums and your teeth with the one.
Well,
tooth.
yeah, okay. So attention, anybody who smokes weed, drink water and brush your fucking teeth.
Well, even then, like there's
increase the amount of teeth brushing from 2 times a day to 4 times a day.
If you smoked, you would literally have every time you smoke, you would have to brush.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, but understand too, this isn't like, you know, a one fits all. You know, because there is a small part of it where genetics does come into.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
But there is studies from the Dental Association.
Essentially, what we're talking about is people on the margins. So, like, if you're barely making it with your with your dental health, like sure. you're good, but you're not really having the best practices, and then you start smoking weed, your dental health is going to deteriorate.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you're on top of good, clean hygiene with your dental health, and you start smoking weed, you might want to increase that a little bit, but you'll probably be fine.
And again, I think this starts most weed smokers start in their teenagers. I don't think most weed smokers start in their 20s or their 30s or their 40s. I think most of them come from teenagers.
Yeah, I smoked my first time at 17.
Yeah. My first time was...
And that was late.
17.
Yeah, 17 was pretty late.
Yeah, you held out.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
But you know, my brother also waited till he was 17 as well, and he is 17. So I just found out that he tried it.
Oh, I was just gonna ask you, were you the one that?
No.
That sat him down and said, "Listen, little bro."
No. I did do that with my other sibling though, with my sister.
Oh, okay.
Because she was gonna do it, and her friends came over and they went for a walk, and I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna come on the walk with y'all, and because there was like this little like turd looking dude that brought the weed, so I'm like,
okay,
you know, it looked like a little turd, you know,
yeah,
and I was like, hey man, let me take a look at that. So like I looked and I knew what I was looking for. And I was like, okay, is there any funny business going on? No. Okay. And then I watched him roll the blunt. And then I made sure that I hit it first, you know, because she was going to do it anyway.
Right.
Like
yeah. Well, I would do it just because I'm the elder. You know, you respect your elders, you know. I get first hit.
Well, that, and, you know, I'd rather be the guinea pig because I know what's going on.
Well, actually, depending on how they roll it, you would want them to take the first hit so they get mostly paper or blunt wrap.
Well, yeah, of course. No, yeah, I don't care if the kid that rolled it put shit in there. I don't care if he fucks himself up.
Well, no, I'm just saying like the first.
Before my sister hit it, I hit it.
Yeah.
Oh. Because no, I'm playing that shit.
So,
but my point being, you know, as far as so like when it comes to like the medical argument,
I'm ready to move on from it.
Right. So when it comes to that argument, it just gets so in the weeds and so about like specific studies and this and that, and like inherently, we allow things all the time that are bad for our fucking health. So
we do,
you know. Obviously, we're not, you know, it's not the government's job to be your nanny. It's not the government's job to tell you what you can and can't do.
No, it's the government's job to keep its citizens safe, though.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, no. Where in the Constitution is that? Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. If you're able to live and you're able to have liberty and you're able to pursue happiness.
Well, right. I mean, that's the, you know, essential right.
Right. So that's the role of government. Get your big government ass out of my business.
No, yeah. Look, I
Dozangs.
agree with you. It's interesting that you say that because the kind of government you talk about is actually big government, but that's going off
Nope.
top.
No, it's not. But
It is.
I'm
Look,
an
no, we're going off
anarcho-socialist.
topic.
No, it's not.
You're a communist, Prohfit.
I'm a socialist, and I'm libertarian. I want to decrease the size and the
Socialism,
strength of government.
big government.
No, it's
Well,
not.
yes,
Damn it!
No, you just said.
I want to decrease the size of government.
But you can't do that on socialism.
Yes, you can. It's called giving the workers the means of production. I see two tyrannies: the tyranny of government and the tyranny of private industry. So I want to eliminate both.
Okay. What are your arguments when it comes to why it should be legal? So I covered the medical. You weren't all about that.
Right. So there's three main groups. You have your moral and philosophical argument. You have your utilitarian. Does it benefit society to have it legal? Does it benefit society to keep it prohibited? Then you have your third, which is the economic argument. So we can go into any one of those three.
Yeah, I'm ready. I think. I don't know what you're going to throw at me.
So, I mean, essentially, the philosophical argument is the government does not have the right to tell me what I can and can't do with my own body. You can't limit my choices and my decisions. It's my autonomy. I get to make the choice. If I want to fuck myself up, I can do that. You can't stop me. And as soon as you start going into trying to stop me, then you're talking about some 1984 type shit. And I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with Orwellian police flying helicopters, looking into my bedroom window to see if I'm hitting a joint and then busting through my door and arresting me. No.
They don't do that now, though.
Yeah, but they would if they could.
What do you mean? They can do it now. If they really wanted to, Prohfit, they could fucking do it now.
Well, I mean, but
they can do whatever they want.
Okay, so they don't.
It's fear mongering, Prohfit.
Yeah, well, of course, I've got to be a little bit. But I mean, they'll use the smell of weed to like search your car. They'll use it to search your house.
Sure, yeah, okay.
They'll use it to run your pockets. They'll use it as a reason to stop you. They'll, and they don't even have to prove that you even do smell like weed. They just go, "Oh, I smell weed. Let me go run your pockets real quick." And it's like, what? I don't smell like weed. I haven't smoked weed in like a year. Oh, well, I just smelled it when I looked at you. So
if you don't have anything to hide.
Oh my God. See, this is the thing.
What is the problem?
That's the whole 1984 argument, man.
Okay, but what is the problem? What is the problem with that? If I don't have anything to hide and they search me, you know what happens? You know what happens, Prohfit? I go home. They
can find anything.
I can go home.
Oh my God. Yeah, but that.
No, what's wrong with that? Okay, do what you need to do.
Okay, then.
And then I'll go home. And then I'll go home. See, the only thing
because you're being harassed.
I don't feel harassed. You know why?
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. You know why I don't feel harassed? Because I don't have anything to hide. That law is only good.
That's such a bootlicker argument, bro.
You have something.
Oh my God! How does the leather taste, bro? Everyone's committed a crime. Newsflash.
You're right. I'm not saying you haven't. I am saying if you don't have anything to worry about, what is the problem? Eventually, everybody has committed a crime, but you have
personal autonomy.
What do you mean?
Your personal
my pockets. He checked my pockets.
Yeah, ran my pockets.
I don't have anything
You're
to hide.
essentially that's neo-Nazi. Where are your papers? Where are your papers, Dozangs? You can't walk down the street. You can't walk down the street without getting asked, like, who are you? Where are you going? Where's your papers?
No. That only happens if they think you have probable cause. If there's no probable cause, look, Prohfit.
Right. So I want to reduce the amount of things that can be used as probable cause.
Just walk through with me, Prohfit.
I want less things that are probable cause.
You said that they'll use the smell of marijuana, even if there isn't the smell of marijuana, just to run through your pockets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if they use the smell of marijuana when there is no smell of marijuana, and you say, go ahead, search my pockets, they're not going to find anything, are they, Prohfit? Because there was no smell of marijuana in the first place. So if you're not breaking the law, but they say you are, Prohfit, you go home. They don't violate you in any way. They don't violate you. Even said that if you're proving them wrong, it's a spit in their face. If you go ahead, check me, motherfucker.
Well, yeah. No, it is.
So
here's the thing, though, right? Here's the thing. They'll do that in order to then try to find something else on you.
But if you have nothing else, what is
right? But I mean, there can be a city ordinance that you're breaking. There could be little rules, little laws. I mean, that they then use to then justify even more stuff. Or like, okay, they stop you because you smelled like marijuana. Then they run your name and find out you have an old speeding ticket. Now you're going to jail off of marijuana. Or they off of them searching you for marijuana. Or they run your name and then they decide to do an even further harass you because you have a record or because of any other situation. So it's like
okay, look. There comes a point in time in life where you just have to get your shit together. If you're 40 years old, okay, look, Prohfit, I know plenty of people older than me, younger than me, yada yada, they smoke weed, okay? They go home, they mind their fucking business, but they got their shit together. There's no helicopters zooming in flashlights and windows. There's no one walking down the street and the cop saying, hey, you come here, I smell weed on you. You broke a city violation, a city citation 87 dash.
They do that, bro. Oh my God, they do that.
I'm not feeling it, bro. I don't see it.
Well, I'm telling you that I've seen it happen.
Man, there has to be something. I just look.
No, I'm telling you.
It's like when we had the BLM conversation, right? I agreed to you, and I'll do it again here. I agreed to you that are there cases? Yes, but on a global scale of the police department in America, not on a global scale. I'm sorry, international scale, I guess.
Yeah, national. On the national level.
On national level, the police department is not like that. But are there individuals or sects or groups? Yes, I'll concede to that.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of evidence to suggest that it's a much more widespread problem that the police harass you. I
just don't feel it. I just don't
impede on your personal rights. Well, see, so the thing is, right? Okay, so we were talking about, differences in areas and where you live versus where I live and stuff like that.
Yes.
Is it safe to say that you live in a more rural area?
I live in the biggest city in my state, and there are 3 other large cities around me. Like within a 2 to 4 hour distance.
Okay. So I don't know how big your state is, and I don't know how big your city is, and I don't know how compact it is. But essentially, here in California, where there's a large population concentrated in certain population hubs, there are a lot of interactions with the police on a regular basis for a lot of fucking people. And
Would you say most of them people are 40 years old with their shit together, going to work every day and just coming home and minding their own business?
Well, look, my uncle.
No. Would you say that the majority of the interactions that are having with police officers are people over the age of 40 with their shit together?
Majority, I don't know, because I mean that's a pretty small subgroup to like say like, oh, is this the majority of interactions?
What do you think the age group is of a majority of interactions with
most interactions?
Yeah, what would you say a good age group is?
Well, I would say probably 30 to 40% are males. Oh, shut up.
It's all right.
Oh, hang on one second, bro.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Let me mute.
I'm asking that question because I just feel like it's important to. I think it is an important question to ask, because what I'm asking is that I think it's validated that if the percentage 30 to 40 or even 50% were teenagers to 25, 30 years old, I think that would be right, because those are the people mostly breaking the law, in my opinion. I mean, if I was a police officer, even I would look at certain age groups as a little more suspect than other age groups. And I think my hunch would be right. Maybe that's a little shallow or judgmental of me, but that's how I view it. I don't think there's a lot of interactions no matter where you are. Police officers bugging people or having interactions with people on a negative way that are productive citizens doing the right thing and just minding their own business.
All right, man, I'm back.
Hey, what's up, man?
So
I was just explaining why I felt like that.
Why you're throwing out rando?
No, I think it's a good question. Here, take this one.
Yeah,
pulled it out of my ass.
No, so essentially, the issue is when you're in a high population area, the more people that are out, the more interactions those people are going to have with the police. When the police heavily police a specific area, they're going to target certain types of people, and they're going to use reasons to target those types of people. And the more laws you have, the more reasons they have to stop you, and the more ways they can fuck with you. And they do on a regular basis. It's like a real thing. Like in LA, for example, we have legitimate police gangs.
And they use about that,
yeah, and they use things like, thankfully we legalized marijuana, but they'll use like a noise ordinance. They'll be like, oh, you're too loud. So and then they'll come in and they'll start harassing you. And then they'll be like, oh, what you doing? Where's your hood? Where's your homies? What you bang? Blah, 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 blah. Because they saw you walking down the street with your headphones on. And then they're like, oh shit, who the fuck is this guy coming through our neighborhood? And the police do that all the time. Like, it happens. And they check people, and they use laws as a way of getting away with it. And I feel like that kind of stuff happens in more places than just LA. I feel like, similar stuff, not to the same level, but similar stuff happened up in my city in Northern California. I've heard from a lot of other people while I've been, attached to like BLM and stuff like that, that, Baltimore has a serious issue. Chicago has serious police issues. A lot of these big cities with high populations have issues with police constantly harassing them. And in lower population cities where there isn't that concentration of people and there isn't that concentration of police interacting with people,
Yeah.
you probably have a lot less of those issues. I'm sure they still exist to certain extents, but they're not going to be as talked about, and they're not going to be as frequent because you just have less people.
I think our experiences are so drastically different. So like many years ago, I'm talking, let's see here, my youngest is 14, so 12 years ago, I had a joint in my car that I completely forgot about. I'm talking like months old, like months. And I got off work at like 2 or 3 in the morning at the time, and I was going to pick up my kids from daycare, a 24/7 hour daycare. I got pulled over, and it was a sheriff for speeding on the interstate, and he asked me to search my car. I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead, whatever, Well, he found the joint, and he asked me what I was doing, what I planned on doing that night, and I'm like, yada. Just got off work, going to pick up my kids, and I'm going home, and I gotta, I work these hours. Here's where I work at, and he's like, he showed me the joint, and he asked me where it came from, and I'm like, man, I don't even know. I didn't either. I had but no doubt it was mine. I don't doubt that for a minute. But anywho, he just said, well, look, I haven't wrote you any tickets yet. Why don't you slow down and go get your kids and go home? What he did, he took the joint. I don't know.
Great. And I've had good interaction
with away, or if he went home and smoked it himself. I don't know. I don't know
I've had plenty of positive interactions like that with the police. Though I've been in the car with, my cousins who don't happen to have the same skin as I do.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it gets a lot more ugly a lot faster. And but I mean, like, when we legalized weed, it was like a thing, like, okay, so the cop pulled over my friend who was driving. We had like just bought an ounce of weed, and we were gonna go home, and like that was like our monthly allotment. And essentially, cop pulled my friend over for speeding and was like, damn, I can really smell that. Are you guys smoking it while you're driving? And we were like, no. And she said, like, yeah, I think I can tell that it's, you're not burning it. So go ahead, and wrote the ticket and then let us go. Didn't even search the car. And that is a better reality than smelling something that could be weed and then having the authority to then search your car, and then anything that you may have or may not have that may make you more suspicious, then subject you to further law interactions. I mean,
there is actually an argument saying it's unconstitutional even for them to search your car without a search warrant.
Right.
Without an actual warrant.
Right.
So I've heard that. I've heard that before, and
you have to give permission.
Yeah, right.
And like, if you were to follow the law legitimately, it's seen as rude by police, and then they'll harass you even more.
Yeah.
But if you follow the law legitimately, you don't roll your window down more than halfway. You do not unlock your car, or you get out of your car entirely, turn it off, and lock it and shut the door.
Can you get your lawyer on the phone and have them talk to your lawyer?
Yep. My uncle literally has like a legal program, so that at any time he can talk to, legal representation for any issue. He pays it's like a monthly subscription, and so he'll just call them whenever he gets pulled over. He calls them, puts them on speaker, and he lets the cop know, "Hey, my lawyer is on speaker."
Okay. So aside from the, you're saying basically it's a foot in the door, like the legalization of marijuana, because it's a probable cause and it's a foot in the door to invasion of your privacy / personal space
or property. They smell you doing it in your backyard, then they raid your house.
What else? What else do you think is not kosher? About
having it illegal.
Yeah. What else are your arguments?
Well, so essentially, like on
unless you want to cover that a little more, that's fine too.
Like in the moral sense, right?
Okay. Yeah.
In the philosophical, I don't believe in the government having the right to control what I choose to do to myself or for myself. So long as my rights, or so long as my actions don't impede on the rights of anyone else, it's not your business what I choose to do. And I believe in that firmly. So, and when it comes to drugs, you could argue, oh, well, that might increase your chance of doing something that is illegal. Then I would say, well, arrest me or harass me for the thing I'm doing that is illegal, that is harming someone else's rights, not the thing that's impacting me. So that would be my philosophical argument. My utilitarian argument, in that I feel like prohibition and keeping weed illegal has more negative effects on society than legalizing it. I mean, that goes real deep, from people being arrested and flooding our prisons and having ruined records for the rest of their lives because they're smoking weed, to and having families broken up and all sorts of negative stuff like that, to having an illegal drug market where if you smoke weed illegally, then you're more likely to be around the same guy who's not only selling weed, but he's also selling coke, and he's also selling acid, and he's also selling whatever else he can get his hands on to sell. And so if you're going to him for weed, the chances of you ending up doing other shit increase. Whereas if you were just to get it from a local store, you're not probably going to be having as many interactions with those people that are selling other shit.
So then what I mean, what's the argument for not legalizing that other shit? Because then now
I'm 100% for legalizing everything, but
Jesus,
yeah,
you just want this country to go to shit, don't you?
No, I wanted to blossom and bloom.
With what, full of druggies and
no. I think that when you legalize or decriminalize drugs, the rates of drug addicts decrease, and you find that in every single case where they've legalized drugs. Every case, with hands down.
Well, actually, in Netherlands or New Holland or what have you, treatment for marijuana has skyrocketed because there's actually much more addictions, and they're addicted. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Drug use has gone down in the Netherlands since they decriminalized drugs back in the 80s. I'm sorry. Or since they decriminalized certain drugs. They didn't decriminalize all. And then you look at what is it, Portugal? where
Yeah.
they decriminalized all drugs, and yeah, drug use went down. Yeah, no, I would have to check your source on that.
Well, so what they're saying is the Netherlands gained control of their hard drug problem in a couple decades and now boast of one of the lowest rates of hard drug use. Hard, not marijuana, hard.
Right.
So, but treatment has skyrocketed in New Holland for marijuana. Does that, I mean,
Well, probably because
even at face value, how would you read into that?
How would I read that as far as treatment skyrocketing?
Yes.
Probably because they're increasing treatment. Probably because they're like, oh, well, people are actually addicted to marijuana, whereas before we didn't think there were marijuana addictions. So now we're going to start treating a problem that we weren't previously treating. That would be the easiest answer.
Okay.
You know, like essentially, obviously, like if I started if before I didn't really recognize that schizophrenia was its own problem, you know, and I just lumped it into something else.
So marijuana,
and then I was like, oh, let's do schizophrenia treatments.
Marijuana addiction.
Obviously, schizophrenia treatments are gonna skyrocket.
Yeah. But I mean, would you say that, you know, marijuana addiction is a problem, even in countries with legalized marijuana?
Well, I mean, I don't think that it's a chemical addiction. I don't think it's a chemical addiction on the same level as like cigarettes, like with nicotine. But it definitely is. You know, I mean, it definitely can be addictive. It's definitely habitual for sure. And I mean, anything can become an addiction. Jacking off can become an addiction.
Sure, right.
Gambling.
Sure.
I work at a casino, and let me tell you, some of those people, man.
Right. No, I get it.
You know, but marijuana addiction doesn't have any of the aspects that like meth addiction or heroin addiction or even coke addiction can have on your body. I don't think that it's as serious even as cigarette addiction.
Yeah, I'm not claiming it's a hard drug. I'm not saying that. I would
Right.
I would put it up there with you know, cigarettes and alcohol though. But I wouldn't consider cigarettes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you know, because stop smoking weed, like you may be a little irritable, but like when people stop drinking, their whole like it fucks them up. Like if they're alcoholics and then they cut cold turkey,
yeah,
they go through withdrawals. Cigarettes cause withdrawals. Weed doesn't really cause.
I don't know, you know, because I've quit cigarettes cold turkey. I literally woke up one day and I quit cold turkey. And I've quit weed before too. You know, many times I've quit weed in my life. And I would say they're pretty close. They're pretty close.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know. I've never been like addicted to cigarettes. I know when I quit weed, it was like nothing.
They're both for me. It was hard the first time. I never really had a hard time. I just needed the only thing I needed was to get it completely out of my house. So I would like smoke it all until what I had was gone. And then I was good. I wouldn't go and buy more. Like, you know, it wasn't a problem. If it was there, I would just be habitual and I would do it subconsciously. You know, so like I'd find myself like lighting a bowl and being like, "Oh shit, I'm supposed to not do this." Right.
But once it was gone, then no problem at all.
I think people, I don't want to say most people, but a lot of people have, you know, the same kind of addiction as I had with it. I think like even
Well,
when
I
they
don't know. I mean, you know,
had to go out and spend money and get it, and
and
it's
it's understanding that,
it's devastating to the pocketbooks. It really is.
Well, yeah. I mean, especially out probably where you're at because it's not like cheap as shit like it is here.
Well, yeah, just for an eighth, which is like 3.5 or 4 grams, is like $60 sometimes, or 50. You can get 50, but wow,
Oh my god,
yeah. So
that's so crazy.
a lot of people,
I mean, we have expensive gas, but Jesus.
cost of living here is pretty cheap, but there's people around here that, they smoke so much that they need roommates to survive because I mean it's addictive. I think boredom has a lot to do with it. It's just like cigarettes. Boredom, it's addictive nature. It's the habit.
Yeah, I mean, some people are just addicts. Like,
right.
you know, when they do and when they find anything that they like, they're going to be addicted to it, and then it becomes a problem.
Right.
You know, and that's why I count addiction as more of a mental health issue than I do like criminal issue. You know, I feel like if you treat their behavior and you encourage them to have better behavior in their lives, then you're going to be far better off at addressing addiction than you would be by throwing them in jail and punishing them. But you know, so for the philosophical reasons, I just don't think it's right for the government to tell us what to do when it comes to personal decision. If I want to be a gambling addict, it's not for the government to tell me what to do. If I want to eat fuckloads of McDonald's and kill myself eating McDonald's, it's not for the government to be my dad and tell me to stop eating. McDonald's.
You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. But it's also not for the government to tell us to pay for other people's treatment for doing that. And it's also not up for the government to tell us to pay for these obese people that need these life-saving surgeries.
Well, we can go in. We can go into.
Well, no, that's a different subject. But you went there, kind of. So I'm just like, I'm using apples to apples here with you,
right? Well, so
it kind of goes along the same. I realize that's a different debate, but still, I'm comparing it with. Well,
so I feel like economics. I feel like economics are an entirely different conversation.
Economics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Than like social issues. Like those are like the two where they separate things.
Okay.
I
mean,
so I mean we can do that, but I mean I could then I can turn it right back to like, oh well, if you don't think the government should be involved in X, then why do you think that we should subject ourselves to getting searched randomly by police if we're doing nothing wrong, right? Like that's big government. That's the biggest government out there.
You're right. Well, I mean, look, yeah, you're right. It's police force. It is government. It's government paychecks, tax funded. Yeah, you're right. So
jackboot thugs is what it is.
Well, I won't go as far as that. They're just trying to feed, the majority of them are trying to feed their family like everybody else.
Hey, so were the soldiers in the Nazi movement.
Well, you can't use that for everything. I mean, every debate we have,
so were the guys who were operating under Pinochet.
Nazis.
Okay, all right. So were the soldiers under Pinochet in Chile that killed all their people. They were just paid by they were just seeking a paycheck, brother. So were the guys that threw people in gulags in the Soviet Union. If we want to attack a left wing tyrant,
they're horrible.
They were all just getting paychecks. Yeah, but they were getting paychecks, brother.
What do you want them to do? What do you want them to do?
Well, I want less laws so they have less reason to fuck with me. That's what I want. I think if we can reduce the amount of interactions they have with me over things that I don't think are fucking important, then that's better for everyone. You know, if I can reduce the interactions between agents of the state and citizens doing stuff for themselves, if we can reduce those, then we'll have less incidents of people being shot. We'll have less incidents of people being falsely accused. We'll have less incidents of people going to jail and filling up our prisons and costing a fuckload of money.
There's a fine balance. Like eventually, like you can't. I think, like, look, if you don't have so many, it's such a weird thing, right? Because like, just because you make it like a law. I don't know. I know what I want to say, or I know what I'm thinking. I can't
articulate it.
Yeah. But I know there's an argument there to be made. I just can't put it.
Well, I mean, I feel like the laws should be focused on how can we protect people's liberty when it comes to social interaction? How can we protect people's independence and personal choices? So obviously stealing impacts my right to have the stuff that I've purchased through my hard work, right? If you steal from me, no, your right to break into my house and steal from me takes I love you to death, brother, but that is not socialism. The government doing stuff and the taxes is not socialism.
No, it's taking your money. It's for somebody. Yeah. It's taking your money.
Okay. We can go into taxes if you want. But the point is, you shouldn't be able to be held up at gunpoint on the street from a rando getting robbed, because that impacts your right to your life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, your property, and your you know. So the police should be able to stop those things from happening or arrest people who are accused of doing those things. But when it comes to anything that does not impact someone else's rights, stay the fuck out of my business, man. I mean, that's my philosophy.
I think I think put it like that, most people would agree with you. I mean, even me agrees with you on that. Like when you, but I just there's like, I don't know, maybe it's just me that want to blanket it by saying, I want to blanket the situation by, live and let live, if you will. If it's not hurting anybody, stay the fuck out of my business. Put it in the words of Prohfit.
Right.
But at the same time,
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Except for this, except for this, maybe that's what I want to do. I don't, because I believe wholeheartedly what you just said. I do. I do. So,
but then why would you? So, like with weed,
because I don't think it's good. Because I don't think marijuana is good for society. I don't think cigarettes is good. I don't think alcohol is good, though. I draw it across the board. It's not. I'm not one of these people that think cigarettes should be, alcohol should be, but not marijuana. I don't think any of it should be legal.
Well, I think having it illegal. I think having it illegal does more damage. I think, you're arresting people. You're putting people in a lifetime of prison.
A lifetime. No one who's serving a lifetime of prison for just marijuana.
Okay.
Just marijuana. Nothing else.
Marijuana.
I want to look this up too.
Sentences.
Not distributing.
God, not distributing. So if you're selling marijuana, here we go. CNN. I know you don't like CNN, but a man who was sentenced to life in prison for selling $30 of marijuana will be freed.
A man
who was arrested in 2008 in Louisiana.
I sees it.
Yep.
Selling less than $30 worth of marijuana. When was he? Yeah. So I will say.
So he got 15 years in prison. That's what his sentence was. But they were saying it's a lifetime because he was like older or something.
Sure. So yeah. So how about I say this is unfair. This sentence was unfair. I'll give you that. Okay. So you found I mean, it wasn't a life sentence, but still, nevertheless.
Well, so here's another one, prisoninsight.com. Can you get life in prison for weed? The cannabis laws in the United States have gone through some major changes in the last 2 decades. Depending on what state you live in, you can either grow and use cannabis both recreationally and medically without consequence as long as you follow state guidelines.
But no one is. No one is, though, right? I mean,
the state laws, blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. That's the history behind it.
Well, here's one here that says Rich Paul made headlines this week when he announced he would appeal his 81-year sentence for selling marijuana. But again, selling, I mean, that's the first 9 individuals, age 62.
Yeah. Here's the thing, right? So here's federal, and then state can get added on to federal sentencing, right? So you can get sentenced for the same crime by both your federal sentence and your state sentence.
Okay. I don't think that's right.
So the federal sentencing, so in possession, any amount, first offense is categorized as a misdemeanor up to a year and a fine of $1,000. Any amount, second offense, counted as a misdemeanor, up to 2 years, $2,500. Any amount, subsequent offenses, misdemeanor or felony, up to 3 years, $5,000.
So it just keeps going up and up and up the more times that year.
Right. And then we have sale. Less than 50.
I mean, Jesus Christ. Prohfit. You know, maybe if you're getting caught 6, 7, 8 fucking times, you shouldn't be the one to be doing what you're doing. I mean, maybe you get caught 6, 7, 8 times. I mean, maybe you
get pulled over. People get stopped by police like once a week in certain areas here, dude.
Well, don't go in the fucking area. Go somewhere else.
That's where you live.
I don't know, man.
I'm just telling you, like, there's a reality to this. And they use this to, like literal communities get attacked by police officers.
Man, it's like you're not even living in America, man.
I know. It's fucking horrifying. But it is America. It absolutely is America. It's the other face to it.
Man, I'm glad. The more I talk to people from like New York, California, Rhode Island, Delaware, like I'm glad I'm where I'm at, man. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of trying to move to Washington. But anyway,
it's no better. You know what? When I went to Washington, Seattle, matter of fact, there was I remember there was a strike going on with picket
That's awesome.
fences, and it was for Verizon. It was for Verizon. So yeah, I remember like because I've never seen that. So I like whipped out my phone and like, what the hell? And of course, my conservative friends back home were like, you should go in there and tell them you'll work for less. Just to keep them guys out of a job, not being thankful for what they had.
Fucking scab. Fucking bunch of scabs.
You don't like that, Prohfit?
No, that's scab shit right there. Bootlicking scab shit.
Well,
way to weaken the working class.
Well, we don't. I mean, yeah. We just are thankful for the jobs that we have. Yeah.
Bootlicking. Bootlicking.
Well, I mean, it's doing where not everywhere, but where we're at, we're doing all right.
I believe in the Battle of Blair Mountain, my friend.
The what?
Battle of Blair Mountain, where rednecks come from.
What's the Battle of Blair Mountain?
Yep.
Should I look that up on YouTube?
Yeah. Essentially, it was before Pearl Harbor. It was the largest bombing ever to happen on American soil, and it was done by private businesses.
Oh, for the
bombing poor coal miners in West Virginia, who were called the rednecks because they wore red scarves, and they took over the coal mine because the coal miners were paying them, absolute abysmal wages, forcing them to work 14-hour shifts.
Right.
And like they were getting black lung and shit. And they were like, fuck it, we're taking it over. And then the business owner hired bombers to come and blow them up. Yep.
That's crazy. Yeah, I see it here. I'm looking at it.
And that's why they demonize the term redneck. Like the media demonizes the term redneck and makes people feel like, oh, being a redneck's a bad thing because it makes uprising of workers look bad.
Huh.
So they wanted to take that word away and turn it into something negative. So I had to actually stop saying the term, I'm currently working on no longer calling people rednecks in a negative way.
That's you can call me a redneck anytime you want. Prohfit.
Yeah, but I'm trying to change it so that it's not negative. It's not an insult.
Oh, okay. I mean, I just shrug it off, but that's good for you. Yeah.
So for sale,
do you think these rednecks smoked marijuana in the coals? In the coal
mine? Probably fucking did a lot of shit in the coal mines.
Yeah. Legal,
probably fucking smoking opium.
Prostitution.
Yeah.
Casinos.
Yeah. All of it. I'm for legalizing prostitution too. 100%. 100%.
Like, so I mean, you would have like just like me and my kid walks out of Walmart and then boom, right there to my right is just an open prostitution asking me with my kid, hey, honey.
No, there should be regulations. There should be regulations. I don't think advertising on the street.
Man, I think that's a great way to suck money out of men faster.
Yep.
Fuck no.
Well, hey, then you don't. I mean, it's probably cheaper than. Well, I'm not gonna say that, but it might be cheaper than the M word.
Right.
Maybe.
Sure. I mean,
I mean, if you want to spend your money on that, man, it's not the government's job to arrest you for it.
Right.
It shouldn't
Right.
be anyway.
Yeah.
So I think arresting people for weed has a serious negative impact on their prospect to get jobs, on keeping them away from their kids, on long-term effects in communities. Um, I think that also keeping it illegal promotes illegal industry. Cartels sell it, use it to make money to do other illegal shit. It's just bad news. And also the whole reason why it was like really pushed and the drug war was pushed was for racial reasons. I sent you one of the links to confirm that. We have President Richard Nixon in 1971 declared a U.S. war on drugs. Um, that over the decades fueled mass incarceration and the crisis at the U.S.'s southern border without preventing Americans from accessing dangerous drugs. And one of his top aides said it was because it was a racist policy implemented as a power grab. Criminalizing possession of drugs like heroin and marijuana was intended to disrupt two of the biggest anti-establishment forces that opposed Nixon. One of his top advisors later admitted. Nixon, the only U.S. president to resign in scandal, presided over blah, 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 waning days of Vietnam, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, essentially, the Vietnam War sparked a massive anti-war counterculture across the United States and threatened to upend American politics. And in favor of more idealistic, perhaps too idealistic alternatives. And then the civil rights movement was around the same time. As Nixon sought to tamp down dissent over a deeply unpopular war, two politically powerful non-establishment forces rose, blacks and hippies. John Ehrlichman, Nixon's aide on domestic efforts, who would eventually get convicted in the Watergate scandal, had a plan for them. Dan Baum, the author of 1996's Smoke and Mirrors, The War on Drugs and the Politics of the Future, wrote in Harper's Magazine in 2016 that while researching his book, Ehrlichman gave a reason for the war on drugs that had little to do with protecting Americans from reefer madness. Baum wrote that Ehrlichman, following his very public scrutiny and conviction, had little left to protect and came clean about a shocking truth. You want to know what this was really all about? Ehrlichman asked, referring to the war on drugs. The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. So that's the history. And that's from businessinsider.com, not a left-wing news outlet. So, that's the history of, the war on drugs and criminalizing it so heavily. It's racist, has had negative impacts on entire communities. And it's just, it was intended to have negative impacts on those communities. And it has done nothing to stop the actual drug use. And so keeping it illegal, in my opinion, has way more of a negative effect than legalizing it.
I'm and I think I think maybe when it first started, like the government really started to get invested in it, it did have, racial undertones, but also, um, we were trying to really promote democracy at that time. So it kind of gave us like a power leverage from like South America too. It kind of gave us an opportunity to promote democracy there and a war on drugs there. Where there was a lot of like guerrilla warfare fighting going
Oh
on.
yeah, we were heavily involved in
We were,
promoting.
yeah,
We actually ended up promoting a. It was pretty bad.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, what everything you just said with the Nixon thing, I think is probably right. I don't, have really nothing much to say about that. Um,
So I just don't see the positives of arresting people and like harass. Like I don't see the net positive. And like it, I mean, you can even tar Biden with it too because he wrote the crime bill, which also targeted drugs
yeah, I really
and
didn't.
made it worse. And
Right.
that targeted black people too. And all the Republicans and all the Democrats voted for it. It was like a 100-0. Everyone voted for it, but Biden was one of the people who wrote it. So I mean, you could tar him with that too.
Right.
And, I
Right.
mean, fuck him for that. Like for real.
Yeah.
Um,
Um. Yeah. To be honest with you, I'm a little bit tired.
okay.
Um, and I have like a large job to do tomorrow too. To be honest with you, um,
Okay.
I'd like to wrap it up. Um, do you want to do a closing argument or something to leave them with, or
Yeah, sure. So we didn't really get into then the economic like benefits of legalizing marijuana,
right?
which has huge upsides. I mean, from taxes, we can cut into deficits, create surpluses in many states, and cut into the debt overall for the United States, or at least the deficit, if we want to spend it on other things. Colorado has used that money to spend on homeless shelters, to spend on education, to spend on all sorts of really great things for their community, and they've been probably one of the more successful states at utilizing that money in the most positive way. Um, but essentially, it's going to create a whole shitload of jobs. Um, and I sent Dozang tons of articles on that, like 3 or 4. So look it up. Look up the economic impacts of legalizing marijuana, and you'll see that it's a huge pro jobs agenda. Um, and it'll also save a lot of money on having less people being arrested, um, and less people in the prison industrial complex, and less people we have to pay for. Um, Essentially, it'll have a huge impact on a lot of communities that have been targeted by drug laws, and ultimately, it's one of the most libertarian, non-authoritarian policies. And if you're against big government, you should be for legalizing marijuana.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll just to rebuttal that real quick, and then I'll go on to my closing. I think you'll appreciate my closing, but um, I never trust government with extra tax money because they never spend it right. Um, and that's been proven time and time again. For my closing argument, I want to quote a cultural historic man, Afro man, because I got high.
He's from my neighborhood. He's in the city over.
I was gonna clean my room until I got high.
I
I was gonna get up and find the broom, but then I got high. My room is still messed up,
and I know why. Hey, because I got high. Because I got high. Because I got high. But
I was gonna go to class before I got high. I could have cheated, and I could have passed.
but I got high.
I am taking it next semester, and I don't know why.
Hey,
I
hey.
got high. Because I got high. Because I got high.
Legend.
I was going to go to court before I got high. I was going to pay my child support, but then I got high. They took my whole paycheck, and I know why. Why, man?
Hey, hey.
Because I got high. Because I got high. I wasn't going to run from the cops, but I was high. I was going to pull right over and stop, but I was high. Now I'm a paraplegic, and I know why. Because I got high. Because I got high. Because I got high. I was going to make love to you, but then I got high. I was going to eat your pussy too, but then I got high. Now I'm jacking off, and I know why. Because I got high. Because I got high. Because I got high. I messed up my entire life because I got high. I lost my kids and wife because I got high. Now I'm sleeping on the sidewalk, and I know why. Because I got high. Because I got high. Because I got high. I'm going to stop singing this song because I'm high. And I'm singing this whole thing wrong because I'm high.
Ain't that the truth?
And if I don't sell one copy, I know why. Because I'm high. Because I'm high. Because I'm high. I think that is the most truthful song any artist has ever put out about marijuana. This song,
I think it was about a bit more than marijuana, but
accurate as hell.
It was about a bit more than marijuana, and he proved himself wrong because he sold more copies of that song and made millions.
It's catchy. It's catchy.
So maybe him being high and singing that song is what led to his success.
Maybe. All right. So on that, it was good singing with you guys.
We'll fucking love it, man.
Thanks, Prohfit, for coming in
you
again.
Just sang my whole high school.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Share the page.
Peace out.
Like it, comment, subscribe. We'll see you
Share.
guys.